couple of years ago, I did some work with a guy that knew a lot about technology, and he knew a lot about dealing with kind of the addiction to technology. And we looked at various ways to be able to battle some of that. And I found myself in a much healthier place after going through and working through some of that. And then I started looking, as we were starting to do this, look at the idea of doing this digital fast after I'd had several people come up and talk to me about some of their issues with technology, that I had kind of reverted back to some of my bad habits from before. And I think that's one of the things that when it comes to some of the technology that we use these days, especially these smartphones, it is really easy, even when you begin to set up good boundaries and set up good habits, to fall back in to where we don't want to be. And when you start to look at the research around all of this, social scientists and anthropologists have observed that our fixation with technology and devices has lured us into really a kind of form of sedation. They create in us a feeling of numbness. We become exhausted and lonely, not really fully awake. We're just scrolling and reading and scrolling and looking and moving from one app to another. And let me just confess here, like I said, I had a place where I had put in some healthy boundaries, and I've kind of gone back into putting some bad habits back in, and I'm not feeling really great as I've begun to really look at it again with my relationship with my phone and with other technology. I don't know if everybody else does, but do you get that little ding at the end of the week that tells you how many hours you've spent on your phone? Mine usually comes while I'm preaching. I will, if I'm wearing my watch like I'm doing today, at some point during this time, I will get a buzz on my watch. And when I look at it later today, it will be that thing that tells me that I was spending, X amount of hours per day on average on my phone, and I can look and I can see which of those apps I was spending that time on. It's like, and so I know what the best practices are, because I've done the research and I've done the study and I've worked with somebody who knew it better than I do, but I don't do those things. I know that it's a really bad idea to have your phone on your bedside table next to the bed and use it as your alarm clock. But do you know where my phone goes every night? And what is my alarm clock? It is my phone, even though I know that's not the best thing to do. I know that it's not good for me to grab it off of the holder that it's sitting on and start to look at my email or read the news or get on Twitter as soon as I wake up. But there are so many days where I find myself doing it, and that is not a good way to start the day. And I know that. And so I just want to just kind of share with you why it is that I think that it is important for many of us to go through this 28-day digital media fast. And we're going to start and we're going to kind of dive into some things that the Bible says that kind of speak to this. And so I want you to be kind of thinking about this, because you may find yourself, so far you thought, well, I've watched the video, the little kind of trailer video, and we've been talking about it for a few weeks, but it really hasn't hit you yet. But I will say, in reading about this program and reading about the digital fast experience that the church that built this went through and others have gone, 100% of the people that have gone through it have said that they had a positive experience from it. There's not one person that said they weren't glad that they did it. And so, you don't have to join in doing this. You don't have to be a part of one of the life groups that's doing it, and you don't have to take it home and do it on your own. That's completely up to you. But I know just from experience how much better I feel when I have got a healthy relationship with my devices. And I'm generally interested to see what happens with everybody who does partake in this, and see if they get the same kind of feeling that I have when I've done similar things. I want to see what happens to our perspectives, to our relationships, to our spiritual life. And, but I want you to this is not something that we're doing because we're anti-technology. In fact, as we go through this year, you're probably going to see us using more technology, especially in the sense of communication, than what we have been using in the past. And I'm not saying in any way that you need to throw away your computer or your iPad or your smartphone. That's not what we're looking at here. It's about doing it healthily. And then I'm not even saying that you need for the rest of your life to just completely get off of all of these apps. That's just not the way it is. What happens with this is you start to find a way to build healthy boundaries in, and as you look and want to begin to pull those things back in, you can do it in a much better way. What we're trying to do as we go into this digital fast is just take these 28 days to observe ourselves, and to those that are a part of a group, observe one another and see what happens. See what happens in you. See what happens in your relationship. See what happens with your family, with your friends. What happens when we intentionally go in and reduce the noise that is coming into our life. Get rid of some of those distractions. As we talked about in our group today, get rid of all of those notifications that are constantly buzzing on your watch and in your pocket. I'm interested to find out what it feels like for me and what it feels like for everyone else who does it. So hopefully, those of us that are going in and kind of being guided together in this digital media fast over the next 28 days, and, for those that are starting on Friday, 28 days from Friday, I hope that what happens is as we turn our attention from these things that distract us, that we will begin to look and have our attention turned towards the things that matter. And it's ultimately about that song that we just sang. Christ should be the center of our lives. Not Twitter, not Instagram, not Facebook, not TikTok. Jesus should be the center of our lives. That should be where we are putting our attention. And so as we turn to God's Word, kind of looking and seeing how the Bible kind of speaks to these ideas, I want us to first turn to John 10:10. I ask you to turn there with me. A thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come so that they may have life and have it in abundance. So we're starting this digital fast. And we're taking several weeks to go and kind of look into our own lives, be able to work with each other to see the impact of technology and devices in our lives. So picture, just a minute, all of us can do it really easily. Picture just staring at screens. Most of us spend a lot of time staring at screens. TV screens, computer screens, phone screens, the screen that you control everything in your car with. So just kind of put yourself in that place and be thinking about what it is to be doing that. And we're going to look at it in the aspect of this, a fairly well-known verse here. Tells us what the enemy is going to do. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. These are the words that Jesus is speaking of himself here as the good shepherd. He wants to guide us through life. He says, look, you know my voice. My sheep know my voice. But the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. I will tell you, I have always been somebody that really loves tech stuff. I was, building weird little websites when nobody could even get to them because it was still just AOL and Prodigy and all that kind of stuff when I was in middle school. It was, whether it was MySpace or, when the iPhone and the iPod Touch came out and getting a hold of that and being able to see what all I could do with it. I'm always wanting to see what that new thing can do. AI fascinates me. There's just so many things that I look at and go, man, there's so many things that are so cool about what this can do. It also scares me a little bit, but I find it just overwhelmingly cool to see what kind of things are there. Jennifer has waited in line with me to get an Xbox. I have at times, made sure that I want to have that first new thing in my hands. And just think about how much these devices, especially the phones, because, we're holding a supercomputer in our palm of our hands. I think about that I have more power in my iPhone than I did in the computer that I took with me my freshman year of college. And even that computer was more powerful than the one that sent people up to the moon. We hold all kinds of computer technology power in our hands. But think about it. Let's just go back and just see how things have grown in just the past few years. You go back to that original iPhone. No downloadable apps. No Facebook. No news. No Twitter. No Instagram. No TikTok. No Snapchat. No dating apps. And now we're up to the iPhone 16. And we have all of these just wild variety of things. And Android's done the same thing. I haven't messed with Android as much, so I don't know as much about it. But it's the same thing. It started off in the same way and has grown in the same way. But you think about it. What's the price of your device? What's the price of that iPhone 16? What's the price of that Samsung Galaxy? And I'm not talking about the monthly payments that we pay. We could all probably figure out exactly what it is. I could go and I could Google exactly what the price of the newest phones are on my iPad here. But what the true cost is it? What's the cost of these devices when it comes to our relationships? What's the cost when it comes to our spiritual formation? What's the cost when it comes to our mental health? We have to ask ourselves, are we trading something infinitely valuable for something that's just trivial? We have to look and go, what is it that I am giving up in order to have this immediacy in my hands? This instant gratification. And so as we look at it, I kind of want to look at kind of three themes from these words that Jesus uses here. Steal, kill, and destroy. And consider as we look at it how that might apply to us now. So let's look. Let's go in and kind of see what we get when we got to dive into those words. The word steal in Greek is klepto. And you may know that in the sense of kleptomaniac. Kleptomaniac is somebody who has this involuntary urge to steal things. And the word here, when you go into the Greek, it means to steal, but more it's this idea of to filch, to secretly steal. And so in Greco-Roman culture, that word was used to describe stealing in such a strategic way that the victim doesn't even know that they've been stolen from. That's the idea there that we're at there with that steal in this verse. They don't even get that anything has been stolen. Something would be taken, but it was so subtly done that they'd have no idea that anything was missing. So if you go into Greek mythology, the gods who would steal in that way, who would klepto, they were praised and celebrated over and over again for their skill in stealing. And so the first tactic that we have here of the thief, of the enemy, is to secretly steal. And he's found a way in with these devices to steal two of the most precious resources that we have. Two things that are finite: time and attention. We turn to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11. Don't participate in the fruitless works of darkness, but instead expose them. Tristan Harris, who was a former product philosopher at Google, framed up what's at stake here. He said, the tech industry is at an arms race for people's attention. He went on to say that as a general rule, with most technology, it is intentionally designed and engineered for distraction and addiction because that's where the money is. Economists call it the attention economy. I was showing our life group today something that I was taught that I never would have thought of, that I found fascinating when I was. You ever notice the notifications on your phone, what color they are? They're red. And what shape they are? They're little circles. You know why that is? Because instinctively, we as human beings are drawn to that because they look like good little berries that instinctively we are drawn to want to collect. We are wanting to take those things. It has psychologically been proven that that shape and that color is going to drive us to want to go and gather. And so they make them little red circles. Everything they're doing has intentionality to drive us into it. Seth Godin, who does a lot of studies on these kind of things, points out that your phone doesn't work for you, but that you work for your phone. Your phone works for Apple, it works for Google, it works for Facebook. We want to believe that we're the customer, but we've seen the documentaries, we've seen the reports on the news. We know that we're not. We're actually the product. Everything that we do on our phone is being recorded. Everything you do on your computer is being recorded. And you can bypass some of that by saying this app can't share with this app and this app can't share with that app, but everything that you do on that app is being recorded and shared with somebody. We're the product. What's being sold is our attention. Our attention is being monetized. And big tech knows the value of our excitement, our anger, our lust, everything about us. And they use that knowledge to design products and algorithms that cultivate digital addiction. Why is it that we will stay on Facebook as long as we will? Because they know psychologically how to drive that action through the algorithms. The same thing with TikTok, the same thing with Twitter and Instagram and all of those things. They are driven to keep us going. Why is it that we'll play Candy Crush or these other games for hours and hours on end? Because it's just like the slot machine at the casino. They know, well, if they just give you a little bite of a win, you're going to keep going after it. When I was in high school, Civilization 2 came out. We're on like Civilization 6, about to be 7 sometime next year. It's a video game about building out a civilization. And I can remember nights where I would be playing that game and I would go, okay, I'm going to go like 3 more turns because in 3 turns, this is going to happen. And then by the time I was at 3 more turns, I realized that something else was going to happen. My civilization was going to grow in this way, or I was going to be able to take over this city, or this technology was going to come in. And I would realize later on that it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had been playing that game since 9:30. I had planned on going to bed about 10. But it just keeps going on and on. They know how to work us in. In 1985, Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death came out. Prophetic book. And it has been really for a long time. That book came out in 1985. It was about the effect of television and entertainment on American Western culture. And what he predicted in the 80s was that 2 areas of society would become the most damaged by TV and entertainment, and they were politics and religion. In politics, he predicted that TV celebrities would replace educated, intelligent, wise leaders. And in religion, he predicted that depth and discipleship would give way to superficial, feel-good spirituality. And if both of those things haven't come true, then I don't know what I'm watching. And we see it over and over again. All of these things all coming together around these devices that we have in our hands. Man, how many times has someone sent you a text message? and you respond, and then you look at the weather, and then without even thinking about it, you pop over to TikTok or to Instagram or to Twitter. You see what's happening there, and then while you're looking at that, somebody suggests some really amazing album, and then you go over and you open up the music app and you start listening to that. And then an ad comes up and it's interesting. Maybe it's about a book, and you go to Amazon and you see how much it costs. You've gone on there and you were planning on just answering a text, but one thing after another, you just keep getting drawn in to one place or another, and you look, and all of a sudden you spent 40 minutes on that app or on your phone in general. And think about, think the terms that we have that go along with all of this social media and everything. Clickbait. What is going to get you to click on that button and move and go forward and go into that next thing? It's a sensational, misleading headline that tricks you into opening an image or a video or an article. I mean, have you ever been, you click on that and it seems really interesting, but then there's nothing there that had anything to do with what that title of that was or even the picture that was on the article. It happens all the time. We get sucked down a wormhole of worthless, mindless trivia. And that's what we have to watch out for. It's in that psalm that we read earlier. Turn my eyes from looking at worthless things and give me life in your ways. In February 2021, there was a survey conducted, and nearly half of the respondents stated that on average they spent 5 or 6 hours on their phone on a daily basis, not including work-related cell phone use. 5 or 6 hours. And I can tell you, if you look at the thing that comes at the end of the week, it's probably at least that much for most of us. 45% of teens say they're online on a near constant basis. And so you think of just the scale of that. So how many people in the world have smartphones? We have about 7.96 billion people in the world. There are 6.92 billion smartphones, which says that 87% of the world has a smartphone. There are people playing Angry Birds in some village in the Dominican Republic right now. That's where we're at. That's what is going on. This is why it's important that we think about these things and look at these things. We lose so much time in the black holes of these devices. But it's not just time. It's not just even the attention we give to it. It is our capacity to pay attention. We've gotten to the point where very few of us have the power to have sustained attention any longer. I can't tell you how many times, I've talked to somebody and they'll tell me, I can't even just sit and watch an entire movie anymore. They can't put their attention into something even that is entertaining for more than just a few moments. And they've done the research on this too. Our attention span is dropping with every passing year. Today, for the average American, the attention span is down to 8 seconds. A goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, which means we are losing to the goldfish when it comes to these things. A woman named Catherine Price wrote this quote about the formation of the power of the cell phone in her book, How to Break Up with Your Phone. If you wanted to invent a device that would rewire our minds, if you wanted to create a society of people who were perpetually distracted, isolated, and overtired, if you wanted to weaken our memories and damage our capacity for focus and deep thought, if you wanted to reduce empathy, encourage self-absorption, and redraw the lines of social etiquette, you'd likely end up with a smartphone. I mean, think about the things that we used to know that we don't know anymore. I used to know all of my friends' phone numbers. I don't know anybody's phone number anymore. I think I know my phone number, maybe. I still remember my grandparents' phone number, and I still remember my phone numbers at my mom's and my dad's house growing up. Those are the only phone numbers that are in my head, just honestly. There used to be things that we would just keep in our mind, but why don't we anymore? Because I can pull out my phone and I can Google it. I don't have to have the information stored because I can just look at it. I even think about the good things that come with it and how that is kind of. I love the fact that I have the entirety of the Bible in any translation that I could ever want in my phone. But I also know because of that, I have forgotten scripture that I used to have memorized because I can just open it up and look at it whenever I want to. It changes us. And here's the thing. I really think that the enemy wants us to live distracted, sedated, numb lives. And so he's subversively and secretly stealing our time and attention, making sure that we don't even know. I mean, how many times have you been to a kid's sporting event where the parents are there to see their kids play, but their faces are down in their phone the whole time, and they don't even realize that they're doing it? I've done it and didn't realize that I was doing it because I've gotten called out on it. We have to think about these things. We have to look. The thief comes to secretly steal our time and attention. And what's the next thing that it says that the thief does? The thief comes to steal, and the thief comes to kill. The word that we have here in Greek is thou, to kill, to slay, to slaughter. You go to the story of the fatted calf and the prodigal son, and the same word there, to kill, to slaughter the fatted calf. In Acts 10, when we see Peter see all of these, what he thought were unclean, but God is showing him clean food, he says, kill thou and eat. And so this word's often used in that context of sacrifice and slaughter for food. Peter talks about this same thing that we're looking at here in 1 Peter 5:8. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around you like a lion looking for someone to devour. We have an epidemic in this country and truly around the world, but especially here, of mental illness, of depressive symptoms, of suicidality, of suicide deaths in adolescents between 13 and 18. And we really start to see it come on and begin to build at the time when these devices come ubiquitous. The rise is especially significant among young women. A professor of psychology at San Diego State University, Dr. Twenge, found that teens reported more time on smartphones and social media were more likely to report symptoms of depression, anxiety, and suicidality than teens who spent more time doing off-screen and face-to-face activities. Direct correlation. Multiple studies in the United States and Turkey and the United Kingdom and China have found that the more exposure an individual has to social media, the more likely they are to experience mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, social anxiety, low self-esteem, narcissism, insomnia, and decreased sleep. And here's the thing, I don't want to scare anybody, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but here's the truth. When somebody feels suicidal, it is the work of the enemy. It is him working in us. That is not a lie. That is just the truth. Even when we can look at it and go, yes, I understand that there are things with chemical imbalances and all of that thing. He is working in using all of that to make us come, because what do we know? The thief comes to kill. And it's possible that one of his most effective tools right now are these phones, is social media, because it is keeping us lonely and anxious and isolated in these little digital worlds. Since the adoption of smartphones, as I said, the rates of teen depression and suicide have skyrocketed. And it is not an exaggeration at all. And the studies have been done and the articles have been written to show that Gen Z is on the brink of a mental health crisis. And maybe not even just on the brink anymore, in the middle of it. He comes to steal. He comes to kill. He comes to destroy. And that word destroy in Greek is apolumi, to destroy, to perish, to take away life. And it can mean still existence, but the absence of life. Essentially, void of flourishing. We talked about how the Sermon on the Mount is that picture of Jesus saying, you want to flourish? You want to have human life to its T-topness? You want to have that flourishing life that I promise you? Then this is how you need to live, and here's how the enemy is trying to come in and take that away. He comes to secretly steal, to kill, and to destroy flourishing life. I mean, the research is overwhelming in so many different ways. One of the things that they're seeing is that the wide impact of smartphones are destroying the next generation's ability to navigate the physical world. It's impacting the development of social skills, managing distress, conflict, and anxiety. Smartphones are destroying healthy sexuality through constant and unlimited access to pornography. And the research has been done, and we are at a point where even the youngest kids are seeing these things. These devices, when we don't take the time to really know what we're doing with them, give access to explicit content to children. They destroy intimacy in marriages. And we got to look and we got to say, what are we going to do to lock down these things for ourselves, for our kids? We see that the thief comes only to secretly steal, to kill, and to destroy a flourishing life. But Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it with abundance. We ask ourselves, our kids have these devices. We have these devices. How are we going to rein it all back in? It's not going to be easy. That's just the truth. We're going to have to work for ourselves. We're going to have to work to guide them, to protect them in this new kind of world that has been built around it. And I really do think this is one of those things that we can talk about as a church and that we can then go and share with the world, because we're not the only ones dealing with this. This is the kind of place where we look and go, okay, Jesus calls us to live differently. What is it called? What does it look like to live differently in my relationship with my technology? And how can I show what a healthy lifestyle looks like when it comes to these things to a world that needs it? Because this is not just an individual problem anymore. It is a societal problem. It is widespread. So we need to work as a way forward as a community and show others how they can do it as well. I mean, I can tell you, the research shows, and what I have seen shows, anecdotally, that teenagers have a love-hate relationship with social media and their smartphones. And I would say adults have that same kind of feeling about it all too. I know I do. Sometimes I wish that I didn't even have it, but then I'm worried if I put it down and put it in a drawer and don't use it, that I'm going to get left out of something. So that FOMO comes in and all of these issues. I feel like I'm going to miss out on something because I don't get that notification right when I need it. And so we all need to be having this conversation, thinking about looking at it ourselves, having conversation with others. We got to look and see, what are we going to do to make sure that we're using this in the most healthy way that we can? And that's what the decision to do this digital fast was all about. It's about coming and just taking a step back, being able to take a breath and go, what's the most healthy way for me to be able to use my phone and my iPad and my computer and the video games and all of these other things? So what we're doing, those of us that are being a part of this digital fast, we're essentially going in, and I'm just going to recommend that everybody consider looking and doing this, even if you're not going to go through the book. We're going to, for the next 28 days at least, we're going to make our smartphones dumb. We're going to take away the distractions and focus on utility. So we're going to delete all the apps off our phone that don't have some kind of utility, and that may look different for different people. I was talking in my group, I said, I don't think anybody in here makes their money off being an Instagram influencer, but if you did, I wouldn't tell you to delete it. I'd tell you to, okay, that's how you're making your money. You got to make that work, but you need to find a healthy way to be able to interact with it. So maybe you're going to take the social media off. Maybe because you can access it on your computer or somewhere else, you're going to take your email off so it's not buzzing you all the time. Take those news apps off that are taking up a lot of your time. Take the games off. Delete YouTube and other video apps. Maybe for you, it's just about scrolling through Amazon or Shein or Temu, and you're going to delete all of that. And just leave the things on that make it a useful tool and not a box for entertainment and distraction. One of the things that it said in the book was anything you can do on your laptop or your tablet, delete it off the phone so it's not with you and in your pocket all the time. And maybe even some of us are thinking, well, I don't even want to just work on getting my phone in the right place, but some people may look and go, okay, well, I'm going to eliminate all other screens for personal use. I'm going to just, things that aren't dealing with work or things that I'm not coming around and doing something with people together, I'm going to turn it off. I'm just not going to use it. And so I think there's a couple of reasons why ultimately you may want to take a step back and take this break, do this fast. Just to step back, limit even the work apps just to work hours. First is, you just need a detox from that compulsive urge to just pull out the phone and tap on the screen at the slightest sense of boredom. Because here the thing is, boredom is good. Boredom can be a great thing. Boredom breeds creativity. There's nothing wrong with being bored every now and then. It's really difficult to think clearly about your digital life when you've got that addictive pull because of all of these algorithms and everything else to just continue to move on that phone and use it all the time. But the second purpose in this 28-day fast, and arguably this may actually be more important, is to get back in touch with the things that you actually value in your life. Eliminating that noise, putting it out of the picture. So that you're not distracted from those bigger questions in life about the things that really matter. About what to spend your time doing in the limited time that we have here on earth. A month-long reprieve from all of this noise provides the space needed to just go back and ask those questions. What do I really desire? What is it that I want to do? What is it that God is leading me to do? It leaves time for self-examination. It leaves time for experimentation, to begin to seek out those answers. When we put the noise away, we can start to listen to what God is saying to us and find that opportunity to move forward in what He is calling us to do. To find that opportunity to just be curious again. To see what it is in this world that God has made for us that is really driving us forward. As I was looking at this and thinking about this during the week, it reminded me of what Marie Kondo said, the woman who popularized that idea of cleaning up and only keeping the things that spark joy. And that's what I'm thinking about as I go back in and begin to start putting things back that I've taken away after this fast, is only adding those things back that bring joy into my life, that allow me, that are a tool for me to live in abundance instead of those things that are just distracting me from everything else that's going on in the world. And I think that's something that all of us can look at and do. Whether you're thinking, I have a problem with this or not, I think it is going to be a great opportunity to learn more and to listen to what God has for us. And so as we close in this time, I ask that you would join me in prayer. And please be praying for those who are going through, whether you're deciding to take part in the fast or not, be praying for those that are taking part in it, that we would have the determination and that we would have the strength to be able to continue through it through this month. Father God, I thank you. I thank you that you have clearly shown us that we can take something that can be such a wonderful tool and allow it to get in the way of so many of the good things in life. And that you've shown us a way to be able to rethink our relationship with these tools. Father, I pray for each and every person who is deciding to take this journey of this fast, that you would just give us the willpower to be able to do it in such a way that it is beneficial, that it's beneficial in our relationship with you, that it's beneficial in our relationship with others, that we are able to take some time and attention back and put it into places where it is going to be much more useful for your kingdom. Lord, I pray that as we go into the world this week, that as we begin to see how these devices affect our lives, how it is affecting the lives of those around us, that you would allow us to maybe even have the wisdom to speak some truth into others' lives and to be able to show them how they can use it better. Lord, that we would just be able to look and say, here's something that we can step into the world and maybe be a part of fixing. Lord, we thank you, we praise, and we glorify your name. Amen. I want to ask everyone to stand and join us as we sing this final song.